Hey there, everyone. This is Brett Cease, CCL's Vice President of Field Operations, and we wanted to give you a little preview into what to look forward to for this summer's CCL conference in Lobby Day. If you haven't registered yet, we're going to be joined by some amazing keynotes, including Jigar Shah, the former director of the Loans Programs Office with the Department of Energy. Jigar is also a prolific podcast host with Open Circuit or Energy Empire. And we'll also be joined by Mark Hafstead, Resources for the Futures Director for the Pricing Carbon Initiative. I'll also be leading a workshop in the afternoon all about Bridge. If you've joined us for the deep dives throughout the last several months, Bridge, again, is building relationships and dialogue growth and engagement. You're going to learn all about how to deepen your relational advocacy skills, and we'd love to have you join us. You'll also get to see a lot of familiar faces on staff, from John Clark and Bill Barron, Allison Cabisco, Sharon Bagatelle, and just deepen your own sense of connection, your empowerment, and joining us with taking our message directly to Congress on the importance of taking strong action on climate change. So go to cclusa.org/summer to register today, and know that we look forward to seeing you soon in person. Thanks so much, everyone.
When I attended the National CCL conference, I left feeling more hopeful about my future and excited to use my voice for climate action than I ever have. I remember walking into the Omni Hotel and seeing this sea of CCL t-shirts and just feeling really inspired and striking up conversations with everybody about our collective work. And I really learned the importance of using our collective voice to participate in climate action and how that can prevent burnout and create great connections, great relationships. It was a time I'll never forget.
Hi, I'm Jen Tyler, CCL's Vice President of Government Affairs. I spend a lot of time talking with congressional offices about climate and clean energy policy. And one thing I can tell you is that those conversations are most effective when they're reinforced by constituents who take the time to show up and share their own stories. That's why Lobby Day is such an important part of our summer conference. Right now, Congress is making decisions that will shape America's energy future for years to come. The policies being discussed today, they're going to influence how quickly we build clean energy, reduce emissions, and create healthier, more resilient communities. Those decisions shouldn't happen without hearing from the people who will be affected by them. And you don't need to be a policy expert to make a difference. In fact, some of the most impactful moments in congressional meetings happen when constituents explain why climate and clean energy matter in their own lives, communities, or professions. Walking into a congressional office and participating directly in our democracy is empowering. It's a reminder that elected officials work for the people they represent and that your voice matters. I hope you'll join us this July and experience Lobby Day for yourself. Register today at cclusa.org/summer.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Citizens Climate Lobby's July National Meeting. It is great to see you all here today. I'm Ricky Bradley, CCL's Executive Director, and I have the privilege to be your host today. So we're so glad to, where you're joining us from, whether you might be tuning in by yourself, with your local chapter together, or just listening to the recording later. But for any first-time attendees here today, I want you to know that you joined a transformative, nationwide, nonpartisan grassroots climate advocacy organization, and that we're rooted in the empowerment of everyday people, bridging divides, and building political will for effective climate solutions in Congress. If you don't know this, CCL volunteers come from all walks of life, but we're united by a desire for a healthy climate future and a commitment to working from a place of respect, appreciation, and gratitude. So wherever you are, thanks. And thanks for making sure to log your attendance for our meeting today. The link should be in the chat, or you can go to cclusa.org/log-meeting. Now, today we're going to take a look back at what we've accomplished, and it's been a busy first half of the year, and all the upcoming opportunities for action related to our biggest annual event, which is our CCL Summer Conference and Lobby Day, that's coming up in just 2 weeks. So I want to start by drawing your attention to our 2026 roadmap page on CCL Community, and we'll drop the link in the chat as well. This has been an incredibly busy year so far. You can see just this year at a glance section that'll show up at the top of the page. It's packed with events and initiatives that you've been a part of already this year. Let's start with some of the most recent developments and we'll work our way back. So since our last meeting, you've made huge progress on our June action, which was to ask all members of Congress to prevent budget cuts to the Forest Service as they work on the 2027 appropriations bill. We did this action because we have advocated for climate-friendly forestry legislation a lot in recent years. And because of that, we also have to keep a close eye on the proposed changes to the structure and the funding of the U.S. Forest Service. We want to make sure the Forest Service has the resources, the personnel, and the research capacity it needs to implement the legislation we're working to pass, like the Fix Our Forest Act and the Save Our Sequoias Act. And of course, we want the Forest Service to be prepared for and able to respond increasingly severe wildfire seasons, like the one we're probably facing this year. So with your help, we've already sent 8,212 messages to Congress to protect the Forest Service funding, and that is amazing work. This will also be a lobbying ask when we're on Capitol Hill later this month. So we'll keep reinforcing this need until we see Congress come out with its bills in the early fall around appropriations. Now, this most recent action is just the latest in the mobilizations we've done this year. We've also helped encourage more sponsors on the Senate version of the Save Our Sequoias Act. Importantly, bipartisan negotiations on permitting reform, specifically on the draft of the transmission piece of the legislation, which is getting the clean energy from where it's generated to where it needs to be. And that's going to be a key part of a broader bipartisan permitting package. Sorry about that. I think I hit my laptop and muted myself, so I apologize for that. I was saying that I'll go back. I think what we talked about was, us specifically be engaged on draft transmission legislation, which is going to be a part of any broader bipartisan package. And transmission means getting the energy from where it's generated to where it belongs. We're also going to we've been working to keep EV and hybrid vehicle taxes fair, and funding for the National Center for Atmospheric Research, which was really under threat a lot by our current administration. So I'm proud of the ways that we've collectively shown up. We stayed nimble and responsive. We're really keeping our eyes on the prize, which is moving Congress forward towards effective climate policy. So thank you to everyone who's contacted your lawmakers all throughout the year. I'm also proud that we've taken major steps towards making our advocacy better, become more informed, more sophisticated, and really as effective as possible. I think we've done that through a few ways. The permitting reform training, where our government affairs and research staff went so deep into the weeds to create these fantastic training sessions that started in February and have been running through May. Upcoming, of course, we're also diving back into carbon pricing, as we've talked about in previous monthly meetings. We're going to kick off a partnership with Resources for the Future, Much more is to come on that as we kick off that series in DC in a couple of weeks. And as Brett was just talking about in the introductory video, our bridge training, which, if you haven't heard yet, is CCL's foundational training really to help us become better relational advocates. That started in January. It's continued to roll out each month. And it's really critical for us as we hone the skills to listen better and truly connect with people who may share or may not share the same moral foundations that we have. That's going to help us move forward climate policy that will reduce emissions. Now, so the 2026 roadmap shows that month after month, you've put this information and these new skills into practice out in the field. You did so during a busy Earth Month. You did it during Congress's spring recess and during your state and multi-state conference events across the country. Love seeing those. And the good news, too, is that we see real indicators of global progress and momentum that should give us all some hope. Per Ember, which is a global energy think tank, in 2025, renewables reached 33.8% of the global electricity mix, overtaking coal for the first time. And globally in 2025, clean power met all new electricity demand, which means halting fossil generation growth. And the global fall in fossil generation was really driven by a historic reversal in fossil trends in China and India. Now, also domestically, MIT recently released a report that showed, at least when it comes to the electricity sector, roughly 74% of the new clean energy capacity that would have gotten built under Biden's policies by 2035 will still get built under Trump's policies by that year. Now, even with all that good news, we know it's not nearly enough. And we know that the political headwinds we face in the US are real obstacles to preventing suffering from a warming climate and transitioning our economy to cheaper, cleaner, more secure renewable energy. So the road ahead is hard, but what's also true is that every win was shaped by everyday people like yourselves who really refuse to watch from the sidelines. So thank you for being a part of this journey and for the important work you've done in the first half of 2026. So I'm excited for what's coming next, especially the fact that we get to kick off the second half of the year with our signature event in DC, which is our summer conference and lobby day. But before we turn completely to the conference discussion, let's do a shout out for a few local highlights that were shared with us about the things that are happening in your chapters and states. First, the Howard County, Maryland chapter is gathering together a trusted messenger letter to bring to their DC lobby meetings. It was actually written by someone who worked for the State Department and was part of the team that negotiated the Paris Climate Accord. So great job, Howard County. Our volunteers in Utah hiked with Senator John Curtis on July 3rd while he was completing a 250-mile hike over 9 days in honor of America's 250th anniversary of independence. We also know that Dave in California is partnering with the local clean energy utility to do a combined workshop at a local library. And we've got chapters planning their summer social events. North Carolina Central and Cape Fear getting together at a brewery this month. California Orange County having a potluck in early August. And we know that the Silicon Valley chapter as well is having a picnic towards the end of August too. So can't wait to see the pictures from those events. Don't forget to share any photos from those local activities with us. And you can email those to marketing@citizensclimate.org. We'll drop that email address in the chat. These are all great highlights. So thank you for everyone who's doing this incredible work in the field. So I want to talk about the conference. It's upcoming and how you can participate even if you're not going and help bolster our event. There's a lot of excitement around who's coming. We do have people from every state attending this year. We have our Florida, Maryland, and Virginia states. They've really almost wrapped up all of their congressional districts and having them covered. And we've got a lot of young folks coming as well. We got students and young adults, 3 from Alaska. We also have 12 students from Virginia. And we also have students from Lawrence University in Wisconsin and the University of Colorado, amongst others. Now, I think this year's lobby day is more important than ever. And the reason why I feel this way is because the people who oppose us really want us to think that our government is broken. They want to encourage the fact that to discourage us and make us feel hopeless. I mean, that is part of the strategy. They also want us to think that the partisan divide is too strong to overcome, but that's what they want us to think because that keeps people from acting. On our Thursday night training this past week, Dr. Danny Richter really showed us that despite the long-term rise in polarization, Congress rarely passes laws on party line votes these days. In fact, he found that greater than 90% of post-2012 laws had the support of at least 10% of minority party members in Congress. And we showed that to be the case last July when everyday people walked into Capitol Hill and asked their members of Congress to protect the funding that keeps clean energy and climate research alive. And when the dust settled and the final budget was signed, it took till February, that funding was still mostly intact. And believe me, that was much to the chagrin of the White House. That same MIT report I referenced earlier concluded that permitting reform is perhaps the single best policy action that can be taken to accelerate the energy transition and power economic growth and opportunity. They liken a slow permitting process to a ceiling on the amount of clean energy we're trying to deploy, a ceiling that would exist even with the return of clean energy tax credits and a price on carbon, because they still have to go through the permitting process. So our primary ask this year has been in recent years the same thing. Really, it's for a comprehensive permitting reform package, one that can get support from both sides, one that's built around transmission build out, expedited reviews, strengthening community engagement upfront and early, and a certainty principle that permitted projects cannot be interfered with by the executive branch once they're approved. So please help us show Congress that we have not given up on them, that we reject the partisan framing of this issue. We like the bipartisan framing and believe that they can reach a deal. In just a moment, we're going to hear from a panel of volunteers and staff about what a special and powerful event our conference and lobby day really is. Now, as you listen to their discussion in just a few minutes, keep in mind that you can still plan to join us in DC for this year's event. I'm happy to share that we've extended the registration deadline today, just in case any of you watching today decide that you want to be there and help us show Congress that we haven't given up on them and we think that they can pass this legislation. There are already 800 volunteers, over 800 volunteers, registered to attend, so you'll be a part of an incredible, energized group of fellow climate advocates. And if you are part of the 90% of active volunteers who can't make it to DC this year, don't worry. We're going to talk about the ways that you can bolster our lobby day efforts and participate in the conference from home, including tuning into the conference live stream from no matter where you are. You can register for that, and it's a $20 charge for the live stream access. And one last note on the conference, we do want to thank Climatize. So we do have a champion sponsor this year for helping make this year's conference possible. If you don't know about Climatize, they are a nonpartisan, climate-focused financial portal that enables you to directly invest, I should say, in renewable energy products. And that includes solar, battery storage, energy efficiency, and electric vehicle charging infrastructure. To date, they have channeled over 16 million in funding for renewable energy projects. And I have to say, as a reminder, investment always involves risk, including the potential for financial loss. We provide this information for educational and acknowledgement purposes, and we don't formally endorse or market any specific sponsors' products. All right, now I'm pleased to turn it over to Ellie Sparks, who is CCL's Senior Director of Field Operations, for our next part of the call. Ellie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ricky, and welcome to our panelists. We have 4 great panelists. We've got our first-time lobbyist, a college student from Vancouver, Washington, Audrey Atchley. Bill Barron is one of our network directors out of Utah, has been with CCL longer than I have. He's been with us for a long time. Craig Preston, a longtime volunteer from Costa Mesa, California, and Flannery Winchester, who's our Vice President of Marketing and Communications. I've got special questions for each of them, so you'll get to hear from each of them individually, and then I have some group questions for them. I'm going to start with Bill, our network director from Utah. Now, Bill and I met when I attended my first CCL conference and lobby day. That was 15 years ago. There were 74 CCLers at CCL's second conference. It was my first, but Bill was there at the very first conference. And there were 24 other people. And I know they felt like they were taking over the world at that point, stretching from coast to coast, but obviously not every state like we've got this year. So Bill, I want to hear from you. What was it like, your first conference, your first lobby day?
Thanks, Ellie. At the time I was working as a carpenter full time. And so the advocacy was, taking time off and going to DC and I'm really shy by nature, so it was a big step for me to go to DC. And I just remember my first meeting was first thing in the morning with Senator Hatch's office, and at the time he'd already been in office 33 years, and I thought, wow, this person is bigger than me. I'm intimidated, but I'm going to go for it because I really believe in being involved and participating. And I remember going into that office and, because we work as teams, we had a team of folks going into the meeting with me, but I was assigned the meeting lead because I was the only person there from Utah. And I just remember I had my notes on a sheet of paper, and I was so nervous that my hand was shaking so much that I couldn't even read which was on the paper. So I went and we got led into this boardroom, and obviously Senator Hatch had been there for a long time, so that he has a big office. And I just remember walking down this hallway, and just all the anxiety was building up in me, and my heart was thrashing around in my chest. And we went into this boardroom, and there must have been a dozen big leather chairs and books everywhere on the wall. And I just felt very intimidated and uneasy. But because we went in there as a team, we really were able to kind of work together and deliver the message that we were wanting to accomplish. And I had always had this feeling like the politicians were bigger than me. And that experience led me to realize that we're all just people, and we're having conversations, and we're able to talk with each other. And because we're trained to be respectful and, wanting to build relationships, it changed the whole framing in my mind. And I remember walking out of that office and just realizing how powerful it was to be a citizen. This average, everyday person, carpenter, is in DC lobbying a senior senator, and how powerful it was to do that, and realizing how important it is for citizens to participate in that way. And it really changed my life from that experience, and led me to realize that this was the most important thing I could be doing.
Oh, Phil, I love that. That's a beautiful story. And you've gone on to do some amazing things. Just share one or two of the big adventures you've had since then. I mean, you are no longer a carpenter, but you've done some other incredible things. What's one thing you could share there?
Oh, I've done a number of tours by vehicle across the Mountain West, but I also like to incorporate my passion for cycling, and have done bike rides, advocacy tours across mainly Utah, but also Montana and Wyoming. And I also do them as fundraisers for CCL. So I like to try to, I like to say pedal for a purpose. So get out there, advocate, and do what you love, and roll it all together in one package.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. All right. Craig, I'm going to call on you next. Longtime volunteer, state coordinator for California. Sometimes I'm watching a movie, Craig, and the character in that movie gives me inspiration. Her characteristics, I think, oh, I want those. And in particular, I like to think of Katharine Hepburn in African Queen, where she gets drunk old Humphrey Bogart to drive his boat downriver and blow up the German U-boats at the end of the river. And I think about her when I head into a lobby meeting. I'm going to get this congressperson to do what I want them to do. What's one movie that inspires you when you think about your lobbying work?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Ellie. Glad to be with you all. And as I've pondered that question, the one that keeps coming to mind is Caddyshack with Chevy Chase, chasing down, forever persistent to chase down those gophers. And the gophers keep moving and changing and going this way and that way. And it just reminds me a little bit of Congress, that every 2 years the Congress changes, and then they change people, and they change tactics, and they change perspectives, and they get busy, and we chase down these gophers, and we make Congress move. And we've got 10 bills passed so far. And that movie just, I loved Chevy Chase, his humor. It reminds me of my first time ever joining CCL, and the volunteer that started our chapter with us said, "We do have fun while we do politics." And I've loved having fun with CCL.
I love that. I'm never going to see Caddyshack the same. That's awesome. All right, so next we're going to look at some photos, and I asked each of our panelists to share a photo just showing something that is an inspiration for them and their work as a citizen lobbyist for climate. And Audrey is our college student from Vancouver, Washington. This is a beautiful picture. Audrey, tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, this is a picture of sunset at Long Beach, Washington. It's only about a 3 hours drive from our Vancouver chapter. This is really close to where my late great grandfather had lived for many years up to his passing. He and I were very close, and he had a strong influence on me growing up. It was his life and his love that really inspires me every day. He taught me that what we love most is what is most worth working for. And he also instilled in me a deep love for the environment and for family and for friends. And with my work with CCL and especially with lobbying in DC in a couple weeks, I know that this work is so much worth doing because I love all of those things, and I know that these policies that we're advocating for will hopefully bring us closer together and serve that purpose of what we love most dearly.
I love it. Thank you, Audrey. That is beautiful. Just a beautiful story. All right, let's see that in the next photo. Craig, who is this lady and what is she inspiring you about lobbying?
Uh, so as we savor before we try to save stuff, I'm so inspired that we've gotten 10 bills passed and all that, but I decided to put up a picture of my therapist that she reminds me monthly to go be in nature. She's a gardening person. She helps lead small groups in parks where young people in all ages want to just process their feelings about climate disruption. And boy, it has been a game changer for me for the last three years to know that I have 50 minutes with her once a month to just dump my brain out and clear the deck. And I'm so grateful for her. I found her through the CCL website years ago, and it guided me to the Climate Psychology Alliance. And they have climate aware therapists, and they're trained on helping activists like us be in it for the long run.
Wow, Craig, that is beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. We'll be thinking of all of those psychologists when we're all lobbying. Let's see, the next picture is Bill. Oh my goodness, Bill, where in the world is this?
Yeah, so this is a photo in the Wasatch Mountains. Another one of my careers was working as a ski patroller at a ski area called Alta, and we, spent winters and summers throughout the mountains, and just have always loved being out in nature. And when I got involved with CCL, it was one of the primary reasons was because I wanted to protect this beautiful world that we have for my daughter, who at the time was 10 years old when I first got started. And I just was really wanting to contribute so that beautiful places like these could be preserved in a way that our children and our coming generations can enjoy them just as much as I have. And so I just love being out in the mountains and really want to make it so that other people can enjoy it in coming generations, and certainly as weather changes and all the things that we are experiencing, um, they are having an impact. So it just reminds me of how important it is to work for these places that we love, and to do it for the people we care for and love.
Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you, Bill. All right, I think we have two more photos coming up from Flannery. Oh, there's another Bill photo. Click again. I believe one more photo. Oh no, this is Flan. Both of those are Flannery.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's my husband and our son a few weeks ago in southern France. So this is essentially my husband's old backyard. So he grew up in this region and hiking all around these mountains with his parents and his siblings. And so our little boy and his future are obviously huge motivators for me to do this work. But during the end of our trip, there a couple weeks ago, there was a heat wave throughout most of France, and I believe this was their hottest and earliest heat wave on record. So we were especially grateful to be able to get some altitude in the mountains, and we cooled off in some mountain streams. But that heat wave, like any heat wave, only added to my motivation, really. And I'll be honest, I had a little bit of a climate anxiety kind of spiral that I had to deal with, because it was just so clear how different things are now from how they were 30 years ago when my husband was growing up there. And it makes me worry about 30 years from now when I hope that, my son will still be able to visit or even live there if he chooses and have it indeed be livable. Um, and in the next photo, that's another mountain picture. I couldn't resist. But also the photo on the left is one of the many electric car chargers that we used during our trip. So we made it a point this year to rent an electric car. And it was really fantastic and exciting to see they have a really robust charging network throughout the country. We never had any range anxiety. We never had any trouble finding a spot to charge. And it gave me a lot of hope to see exactly what can happen with the policies in place to steer us toward clean energy options. So that helped me feel a little better and helped me see that, the transition is underway. We do have the solutions, and we just need the policies to speed them up and further them. So yeah, all that said, I'm so grateful for the chance to do this work, and I'm really excited to be with all of you in a few weeks to DC to push for the policies that we need to fix this problem.
I love it. And how those mountains look almost like those Utah mountains. It's just like one earth everywhere. All right, now we're going to go back to Audrey, college student in Vancouver, Washington, who is coming to her very first conference. And Audrey, how are you feeling? What's going through your mind? What is it? Tell us a little bit about that. And go ahead and unmute. There you go.
Yes, I am feeling very optimistic leading up to it. At first, and especially before I actually signed up for the conference, I was feeling really nervous about the idea of going to the Hill. I live in Vancouver, Washington. I live on the opposite side of the country. I've never flown. And, speaking to members of Congress seems so intimidating, especially for little, 22-year-old college me. I kept thinking, do I have a seat at the table? Will I be taken seriously by even my own member in Congress? But because of the support that I had in my chapter and my state coordinators, I was highly encouraged to sign up for the conference. And so I did. And I'm very happy that I did. Since signing up, I've experienced so much support, so much encouragement, and ultimately so empowered in going and lobbying and speaking with our members in Congress. Because of the meetings that CCL offers and the multitude of trainings that are available, I've learned so much about the policies that we are supporting, the asks that we're making. And I know that these will, because of our advocacy, hopefully serve, like Flannery was talking about in the future, a more robust network of policies that will address the climate dilemma that we have. Yeah, so I've just throughout the last couple of weeks since signing up for the conference, I've gained just numerous tools that make me feel much more confident in speaking with our members of Congress. And I'm not nearly as intimidated as I was before. Of course, I'm still nervous because I care very deeply. These are like agendas that are very important. But I know that CCL has such a strong community and that I'm a part of that community and we're going together. And I just have a lot of hope in our ability and our success.
Love it. And that is a perfect segue because when we finally get Congress to solve the climate crisis, we're going to host a giant ice cream party on the mall. Everybody's coming. And these folks are going to tell us what they're going to bring. And if you want to open up the chat and say what you're going to bring to Ellie's giant ice cream party on the mall, please do so. Bill, what are you going to bring to the ice cream party?
Well, I'm not much of a cook, but I would make some apple pie because it seems like the right thing to do. Apple pie and maybe a beverage of your choice. So that's what I would.
American is apple pie. Love it. Craig, what about you? What are you going to bring to the party?
Well, I'll bring some ice cream for sure, black cherry, but then I'm also going to bring whipped cream and run around, and anybody who's willing to let me put it on their nose, I'll put it on my nose for sure.
We're going to have some fun. Audrey, what about you? What to bring to the ice cream party?
I love nuts, so I would probably want to bring a variety, maybe some walnuts, maybe some almonds, depending on people's preferences. Of course, being mindful of allergies, because I'm sure that might be an issue. There's a lot of people going, so the statistics say there might be allergies. But if you're looking for nuts, I'd have them.
All right. Flannery, what about you?
All right, I'm thinking some kind of like homemade fruity dessert thing. What comes to mind for me is my mother-in-law makes this incredible like a raspberry version of a tiramisu, and she uses fresh raspberries from her garden. So I'll say when we've solved climate change, I'll bring something like that because it means our gardens and our food systems are still productive and healthy and will be for many, many years to come.
Love it. And I see folks are putting tons in the chat. I see some wonderful answers there. Keep doing that. We're going to do one more round before we turn it over to Flannery. And the question is one tip for lobby day. What is one tip, maybe one tip you've gotten from somebody or one tip you'd like to give? And we'll go in that same order. So I'll go Bill to you first.
I think that it's really helpful to think about like when you take on a role in the meeting to get a good sense of how long it'll take you to communicate that message. If you're, making the ask or you're doing the appreciation, is really understand in yourself how much time that would take so that you can time the meeting effectively so that you know that you'll cover all your bases before the time with the office is over.
Love it. So practice and timing. Beautiful. Craig, what's your tip?
Yes, Bill, I agree. Timing is important. I'll just say that also every meeting is unique and they all go where they go. So if anybody's watching the World Cup, anybody watching the World Cup, that we have the world coming together. And I'm thinking those coaches have substitutes and lobby teams have substitutes that we can put somebody in there. And if you don't know the answer, somebody in your team probably will, or you just tell the member of Congress, we'll get back to you and we'll get you that answer. It's nice to just know that we can be light on our feet and ready to play with whatever happens in the meeting.
Love it. All right, Audrey, what would you like to give as a tip?
I'm going to take a little bit of inspiration from Bill's comment earlier, just remembering that we're all people ourselves, but then also, of course, our members in Congress. A lot of us, if not most of us, are walking into those rooms, into these meetings, feeling nervous. But I think it's important to remember that our member in Congress, probably the first time they walked into their office, they were nervous about their job too. And just remember that we're all just people doing our best. We all come from different places and different experiences in life, and we're all just doing our best.
Awesome. Love it. And Flannery, what's your one tip for Lobby Day?
Yeah, I think that my tip is to remember that the power of your voice and your presence is not that you are an expert or that you have to be an expert or that you have to know everything. Your power comes from your genuine care and concern over this issue and the fact that you are a constituent and a voter. So just trust that who you are is exactly the right person to bring this message and to make this connection with your member of Congress, and you'll do a great job.
I love it. Now, in 1 minute, I'm going to turn it over to Flan. She's going to give the marching orders for those of us who are staying home. And before I do that, I want to thank Bill and Audrey and Craig and Flannery for being on this panel. I have never seen so much love popping up with those little icon-y things floating through. So many hearts, so many applause, nonstop. You are being loved up by everyone on this call today. So thank you so much for sharing your answers to my questions and for being present with us. And we're showing off a cup here. That's cute. Okay, so Flannery, I'm going to turn it over to you. What in the world should we be doing if we are stuck at home and not in DC?
Yes, okay, thank you, Ellie. Because yes, we'll have something upwards of 800 people there in DC, but there are so many thousands of CCLers around the country who will still be home. But there is plenty for you to do from wherever you are in the country. So, a couple of things. First, we want you to attend the live stream. So, Ellie will be hosting the live stream. Of course, she will weave in all kinds of fun along with the shared viewing of the main stage conference events. So, come to the live stream. Second, we also want you to amplify our Lobby Day asks by calling Congress just before Lobby Day. So we're going to prepare for this action a little bit later on today's call, and there are details in the July action sheet. But this is a big way that you can help make Lobby Day a success by calling Congress the day before we hit Capitol Hill for those in-person meetings. Third, we also want you to support your local CCLers who are going to the conference. So check in on them, text them little messages of support and encouragement, ask for photos that you can share on social media, plan a little welcome home party for when they get back so that you can hear their stories. Maybe you feature those stories at your next chapter meeting, or you have a social event to hear those stories. So supporting the team that is going. And if nobody from your immediate local chapter is going, don't worry. We have folks going from every state. So you can contact your state coordinator or your network director to find out who from your state is going. You might be able to team up with other area chapters for an event to hear those stories afterward. And last but not least, our fourth way that you can participate from home is to engage with local media to elevate the fact that people are going from your city or district or state, going to DC to lobby Congress about climate change. So Charlotte Ward is one of CCL's communication staffers. She's posted guidance on CCL community about press releases, op-ed ideas, and a bunch of other ways that you can get media coverage around this event. And speaking from experience, this is one of the best times of year to get coverage of our work because a big lobby day like this is such a unique and meaningful story when it's populated by just a bunch of regular folks. And so journalists are often interested, and I've seen that at the national level too. So definitely make the most of this story in your local media at home. And Charlotte is available to support if you have questions about how to do any of those media tasks. So that's a lot to choose from, but the main takeaway is that the conference and lobby day are a big moment throughout CCL. So whether you're in the ground with us in DC or you're amplifying and engaging from home, we're all in this together. So I will close out by just saying a big preemptive thank you to everyone who's attending and everyone helping make this a success from all around the country. And as Ricky mentioned, we've extended the registration through midnight Pacific time today. So if you haven't registered and you do want to be with us in DC, you can do so today at cclusa.org/summer, and the link's in the chat. All right, that's all I got, Ellie.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to Ricky now.
All right. Well, thank you, Ellie. And thank you for Craig, Audrey, Bill, and Flannery. Bill and Flannery, I get to be inspired with every day, and Ellie too, of course, just being on staff. But Audrey and Craig, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your tips and all that, why you're going to DC, and just sharing that with everybody. It's so super important for us to remember those things. So can't wait to see you in a couple of weeks. Let's pivot to something even more exciting, our July action sheet, right? All right, so you can follow along and find more details at cclusa.org/action sheet. Ellie and Flannery, we all just talked about the summer conference, so I don't need to really touch base on that much anymore. Just remember again, the Call Congress Day, Monday, July 27th, and As Flannery mentioned, this is really important. A swell of calls just before lobby day really helps that lobby team as they go into the meeting, especially if we're super nice to them. We call them, it's like, hey, these people represent us. We just want to make sure we weren't able to make it, but they're there, and we want you to listen to them and take serious what they're saying. That helps. When we walk into the lobby meeting, they're like, yeah, we got 10, 15 calls or 20 calls yesterday from people back in your district. It makes a big difference. So please do that. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes, how you can do that and get ready for it in our live action. Also on the action sheet, really this month is to think about a lot of the training that we have available. Permitting reform, we're going to go talk about it in DC in next month. It's probably not going to get passed as soon as we leave. That would be a miracle if they did, but probably not going to be the case because actually, the recess and the election year, if are a good shot later in this year. So we still need to continue to think about training ourselves up and be ready. So there's a couple more training sessions on July 16th and the 21st. We're really going to focus on what our asks are. Again, it's going to be around those provisions that we were talking about of a comprehensive permitting reform bill. And then the next lesson in our bridge training is out now, but we will be talking about that as well. It's moving lawmakers up the support scale. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in our extended time here today. And last month, of course, we asked you to host the summer events. And Flannery talked about those. It's a great way to hear back from those who attended the conference. And our communication skills exercise this month, also Flannery touched on this, is just get more effective with how to make a strong, effective pitch or email that you can use to reach out to local media. And really, local media, I used to work in media a long time ago. I can tell you this, you're always looking for stories. You hate to have to generate your own stories. So they are looking for stories. Sometimes it just doesn't click with them, but they're always looking for stories. So you can be a resource for your media folks in your town by showing them like, hey, I'm going to bring you stories. They will so appreciate that, believe me. All right, so now we are going to shift to take our take action section of this meeting. If you are part of a chapter that needs to move on with your meeting agenda right now, we all want to thank you so much for being here and hope you have a great rest of your meeting, but feel free to hop off. If you're heading out, but don't forget to log your attendance. The link's in the chat again. And thank you so much for being here. We'll give you just a moment, and then we will move on to our live action. Okay. Well, our live action today is going to be a little bit different than what we've done in previous months. So instead of contacting Congress today, again, we're asking you to get ready to contact them on July 27th. And as we talked about that, our action today is really just to get ready to make that impact as impactful as possible. So today, your first action is to go ahead and put Call Congress Day on your calendar or set a reminder for yourself. So that way you remember to call that day. We're going to send you an email because that's what we do. We're going to send you an email as well, but nothing beats having your own reminder in place. So we'll ask you to do that. And then I'm going to challenge you. And this is the important part. Members of Congress are used to hearing from us. They also need to see broad constituent support. So we need to let them see other people. So if you can think of a couple of people in your life, friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, whoever, that you can get to call that maybe haven't called before, and ask them, hey, could you just call on Monday to say, hey, people in this organization that I agree with, they're coming there to talk about policies that I agree with, and I want you to listen to them and take them seriously. That's what we're asking you to do. 3 people. So it's almost like you're coming to a dinner party and you're bringing 3 guests. No one will like you if you're hosting the dinner party if you do that, but this isn't a dinner party, but we want you to bring 3 people along. So think about that and how that can really amplify our impact on Capitol Hill. Here's an example script that you can text them right now. We're going to tell them to go ahead and put it on your calendar on July 27th. And let's help those going to DC make an impact and call Congress Day. Is that on the screen right now? We want to put that up, right? Yeah. Yeah, scoop forward, Josh. I think we made a couple of changes. So scoop forward. Keep going. Here we go. Call Congress Day. There we go. Mark your calendar. Think of 3 people to text right now to join. And then let's put the sample script that the people can send. There we go. All right. So what we'll do is we'll give you 3 minutes. What you'll do is you will make sure you put it on your own calendar, but then also send this message if you need to, or some message that's similar to 3 people. And I think we're going to drop that message in the chat as well. To 3 people, so you can just cut and paste it if you like, to 3 people that, friends, family, coworkers, whatever the case may be, to get them to call as well on July 27th. So we don't actually have a clock this month, but we'll start the music and I'll just keep time for 3 minutes. Thank you, DJ Josh. Appreciate that. I hope that gave you enough time. If not, obviously you got time to do that over the next couple of weeks. And those be super helpful for all of us going to DC in a few weeks. So let's talk also lastly, finally about bridge. We have a new bridge lesson as we talked about, and I just want to touch base on it for just a few moments and why I think it's an important lesson for us and to think about our relational advocacy skills go forward. And also when we think about things like resilience and, staying in the fight and, how do we take care of ourselves mentally. So the summer's lobby day and conference really, we're geared towards getting lawmakers to support climate action and specifically climate policy more than anything. But before we do that work to move someone forward, it's really helpful for us to understand where they're starting from. So that enters the last training in our new bridge series called The Scale of Support, Making the Right Ask at the Right Time. Now, this training introduces the idea of the support scale, which is a training framework that was inspired by the Champion Scale, who was developed by CCL early advisor and results founder Sam Daly Harris. Now, it builds on what you've learned about our theory of change and doing the advocacy detective work that we talked about in the previous lessons, but really helping you understand how long-term trust-based engagement helps move your member of Congress step by step forward towards climate leadership. So it's really like a sort of like the practical tool or scale that can give you a way to understand your member of Congress's current stance on a specific climate policy, because they may be opposed to one climate policy, but really like parts of another one, and be able to identify specific actions that can move them towards stronger support. So one of this month's actions is really to familiarize yourself with the levels of the support scale. The support scale helps advocates recognize that support for climate policy is not simply a yes or no question, that it exists on a spectrum. And our goal is to understand where someone is starting so we can help them take the next meaningful step. Now, one end, obviously, we're going to have members who are actively opposed, and we're going to have on the other end people who are really champions. But let's start off with the members who are actively opposed. We will rate those as a -3. Again, first thing I want to say, just a caveat here, is these are internal, these are discussions you have. These aren't CCL's ratings. We're not sharing these ratings. We're not asking you to collect them. This is just for you as a framework to think about your member of Congress. So these would be people who are actively opposed, working against the specific solution that we're actually advocating for. And then there's the -2. Those are people who are just opposed, who disagree, but may not be leading the opposition. In some places, to get someone to go from a -3 to -2 is actually a victory for us, right? And we need to think about it in those terms. Not everyone's going to get that climate champion rating, but if we can move people up, how that's important for us in our work. So for these offices that are -2, that success may not mean an immediate agreement. It could start with reducing resistance, building trust, and understanding concerns, and really kind of finding those authentic areas where we do share common ground with them. In the middle of the scale, we got members who are -1. They're just kind of like uninformed or just not yet engaged, and a 0, which is neutral. Now, these offices are usually ones that haven't taken a position because the policy has not become relevant, safe, or just compelling enough for them yet. Our role is to make it compelling, right? To use curiosity and relational advocacy to learn what matters to them, and then connect what matters to them to the solutions their priorities and constituents want. And just demonstrate that we're there as a resource for them. We are there as trusted support in their community. That helps create that sense of political safety as well. So many of our biggest opportunities have come from patiently helping offices in this middle range move from awareness to openness. And we'll talk about where you can hear some of those stories in just a moment. The supportive side of the scale, that's your +1. They've demonstrated some public support, some private support, and +2 is the public support. And then +3 being a champion and a leader. Even supportive offices need that continued relationship building, whether that means helping them feel safe, speaking publicly, because that is a big step sometimes, elevating their leadership, or just partnering with them to help bring others along. So the support scale reminds us that effective advocacy is not about treating every office the same. They've all got their nuances that we need to understand. But it really is about identifying the next achievable step that moves that person along. Now, each step on the scale requires different actions from us as advocates to move lawmakers to the next level. And I just teased this, but to hear how those actions come to life would really encourage everyone to carve out a few minutes to listen to the fantastic, just real life stories included in Bridge Training number 6. And we want you to start really, if you want to just dive in right there to hear the stories and be inspired at the top, start around the 34-minute mark of that. We're going to drop that link in the chat here in just a minute as well. The stories there focus on members of Congress who CCL volunteers have worked with over the years. And believe me, they all began at different places on the support scale. And it shows how our relational approach helped move them up and support their ongoing engagement at every level. You'll hear 4 examples. You hear from Representative Mia Love from Utah, Representative Ross Layton from Florida, Representative Chris Gibson from New York, and Representative Esho from California. So thank you for continuing to put aside some time to think about how to develop ourselves and yourself and our organization as the relational advocacy experts, those who can bridge divides and build political will for lasting and effective climate solutions. Well, that's it. So we're coming to the close of our meeting today. Thanks again to Ellie, Bill, Flannery, Audrey, and Craig for being our guests today. And thank you all for being here for this month's meeting. We're hopefully going to see you at the conference, or at least on the conference live stream. It's this most inspiring part of the year. I get to see everybody, so I'm super excited to see you. But if not, our next monthly meeting will be on Saturday, August 8th. And so now we're going to close out this meeting today with a little bit of CCL TV. So thank you, everyone. There's the music. All right, Cape Fear, North Central. We got some food. Orange County. Hello, looks like they got cookies. Food thing really great. See you guys. Oh, there's everybody. Hey, everybody. Lynchburg. Don't see any food in Lynchburg. Look at that. We're seeing everybody. You got the extended spotlight. You're going to have to do something else. Ready? Good to see you. Oh, there's our Huntsville chapter. Hey, what's up? Good to see everybody. Oh, somebody's at the front row seat. I like that. There you go. Look at those two. Oh my gosh. See you guys. There we go. Andrew. It's the same. I know it's the same group. I don't know what we have to do. That's sneaky. They're trying to get up front. Hey, there's Sterling, Alaska. Whidbey Island. Whoops. Sorry, Whidbey Island. We meant to have you up there. Georgia, Atlanta. Hey, woo. There we go. And the ATL, look, they got food. There we go. All right. Let's see. Where else are we? Yeah, show us the food. There's Steve. Hey, Steve. Oh, wow. Look at that. Good job. Well, I think we're coming to the end. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for being here. We'll see you in DC in just a few weeks, or see you at the next monthly meeting. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.